With that, again, the session is being recorded. And again, my name is Craig Harmlin, working in the Office of International Affairs with Study Abroad. And I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues and allow them to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cece Nunez, and I'm also one of the Study Abroad Advisor with the Office of International Affairs. And I am happy that you're all here with us today, and I'll hand it over to Hani.
Hi everyone, my name is Hani Geist and I represent the German Academic Exchange Service, or DAAD, in the Western region of the United States, and I will talk to you today a bit more about the funding opportunities that are available, and I'm specifically talking about the internship opportunities through our research internships and science and engineering program. You have my contact information here. I'm happy to answer questions later on, but just for you to know, this is my contact information, and I will also share the slides with Craig with you later, so you can also pass that along should anyone be interested in those slides. Specifically, there are a few links in here that you may find relevant. And so DAAD, simply put, is the higher education arm of the German government. So we're funded by the Ministry of Education and the Foreign Ministry. We have offices worldwide, and we support scholarships. We have scholarships and grants for all disciplines, all academic stages, and we provide a general information, as I do now with you, general information about studying, researching, and doing an internship in Germany. What is important to note, I think, because there are a number of scholarships and grants that are only available to US citizens, funding through DAAD is available for non-US citizens as long as you're a full-time student here at UC Merced or any other university, or you've graduated from a US institution. So this is maybe something that's relevant to you, or maybe you have friends and they're interested in opportunities, so you can pass that information along. We do have two official offices, DAAD office in New York, where my colleagues sit, and that's also usually where most of the funding program officers sit. So if you apply, this is where your applications are being processed, and myself here in San Francisco in the Western region. The other dots that you see here on this map are for our research ambassadors and young ambassadors. And maybe for you specifically, the young ambassadors are interesting, and for you to take a look at. All of our young ambassadors have a small profile, they have an email address, and they have information on what they've done in Germany. And so for this specific information session, there are young ambassadors who've been to Germany on our RISE internship program. There are, of course, other students who've studied in Germany. But so these are really fantastic resources, even though they may not be on campus. One of the young ambassadors is currently at Berkeley, but even though they may not be in California, I encourage you to just send them an email and ask for maybe a quick chat to talk about their experience, or if you have specific questions about an application. So why Germany? Germany has high academic standards, low tuition fees if you're a student, if you're interested in that, and then living standards are high at a reasonable cost. And for you as maybe researcher in the making, maybe you're already a researcher, there are a number of research institutes and universities throughout Germany. If you are a STEM major, you may have already heard of Max Planck or maybe some of the other research institutions, but there are many other university research institutions all over Germany. We have about 400 universities in Germany, and if you do maybe look into the future, maybe consider studying even just for a semester or two, or maybe for a full PhD, Germany offers now more than 2,000 international degree programs, which means that they are offered entirely in English. And so you don't need to know any German for these programs. Before I talk about the funding that's available alongside with the internship opportunity, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that actually costs now that I live in the Bay Area and you're not far, and probably it's not as cheap for you either to live close to campus in Merced. In Germany, really students need about 870 euros per month, and that's what the foreign ministry assesses. So that's also for the visa that students need to apply. And living expenses for an apartment, it's around 350 euros. It may be more, it may be less, depending on the location. For food for a month, you need about 150 euros. And then as a student, and that's also true for our internship program, you also get a public transportation pass, so you don't even need to consider additional travel costs if it's within the region where you're staying. So the average cost of living is between 700 euros and 1,000 euros. And as a student with a student ID, and you do get a student ID as an intern too, you also get access to the university cafeteria that has subsidized food, and also sites that are accessible to you to reduce price. And so really keep that in mind when I talk about the funding that is available that comes along with the internship. And it really is supposed to be available to you to offset the costs that you may need for living expenses. As I said, I focus my presentation on the opportunities for STEM students, specifically our research internships in science and engineering, but there are other funding opportunities to study in Germany for a master's, for example, or for a PhD. We have other research opportunities, and we also have a university summer course grant for those who want to learn a little bit more German or want to take summer classes. And those are all available on our DAAD.org website. Generally speaking, you will receive a monthly stipend that will cover your living expenses, health insurance. You'll also get travel reimbursement. And again, the knowledge of German for most of those opportunities is not required. And what I'm going to talk to you about today, German is definitely not required. If you do know some German, it's definitely advantages, especially if you travel, if you also go to some of the smaller towns, then knowing German is certainly an advantage, and certainly also to kind of immerse yourself in the culture a little bit more. Knowing some German is certainly helpful. And again, US citizenship is not a requirement for the eligibility for those programs. So let me tell you a little bit more about RISE. First of all, why would you want to consider going abroad? It is really an opportunity to build your resume for either your professional or your academic career. Of course, if you're pursuing an academic career, getting that research experience is crucial. But also for your professional career, even if you don't want to stay in academia, an international experience will definitely elevate your resume, and just to be able to say that you worked in an international setting. Of course, funding is important. I know for myself, I studied abroad for a year, and I would not have been able to do that without funding opportunities. So I know how important that is. And so the opportunity that I'm going to talk to you today is a paid internship. It's called RISE, Research Internships in Science and Engineering. And it is an internship opportunity for students in biology, chemistry, computer science, earth sciences, engineering, or related fields. And it's a 10 to 12 week summer internship. It says here flexible dates. So the earliest you can start is mid-May, the latest is late June. And the reason for that is because early July, there's always an all grantees meeting where all interns are invited to a meeting where you interact with DAAD staff, but also with other interns in Heidelberg. And I talked for a few minutes already and didn't address the elephant in the room. Of course, the pandemic is still ongoing, and from what it looks like, it's probably going to flare up again. But we are planning on moving forward with all of the opportunities that are available. So all of our opportunities and what I'm going to talk to you today is available for next summer. We are operating under the assumption and are hopeful that opportunities are available, meaning that you are able to travel to Germany and that you can actually do your internship. And so while we all not know what's going to happen next year, I will encourage you to think as positive as possible as we are in planning your stay for next year. So the timing of this presentation is actually great because November 1st is when the database opens for those internships, and you can look at all of the opportunities that are offered. So this is a web-based matching process. I will talk about that here in the next slide, but first, again, to summarize, you will receive 861, and that's a really random number. The reason for that is because the foreign ministry decided on that number. It's odd, but that's what you will receive, and it's supposed to cover your living expenses. You also get health insurance, and what's really big here, especially for the Western region, is you get a travel subsidy for the international travel, which amounts to about $1,300. So either that covers your entire cost or the majority of it. We do not offer housing per se, but the host and DAAD will help you find housing. And over the 20 years that this program has been in place, students always found housing either by themselves or with the assistance of the mentor or DAAD. And as I said, there's also a 3-day All Grantees meeting that will not only enable you to go to Heidelberg and meet some of the DAAD staff, but you'll also be able to meet other RISE interns. And this is great because it's at the beginning of your stay, so you can meet other RISE interns, maybe even plan trips together or visit one another. So as I said, the database opens soon, November 1st. It will close December 15th. You create an account, it's just your email address, you create a password, and then you have access to all available internships. There are categorized by the fields. So if you're, say, a biomed student or like someone with an interdisciplinary focus, I would encourage you to look at both of those fields and then choose internships that interest you the most. And you can choose up to 3 internships at a time. And I just saw there is something that I didn't update yet. So the requirement is you have to be enrolled at a university as a full-time student. You have to be an undergraduate and completed at least 2 years in the degree program by the time of the placement. And you have to be enrolled in the fall of, that's going to be then 2021. And as I said earlier, international students are eligible. And so you saw here and before, so depending on your field, you may be working literally in the lab, or you may be, if your research is like field research, you may be doing research outside of the lab. So that really depends on the kind of field and the specific internship. So for this one, you wouldn't just apply for an internship with DAAD, but, and this is why the database is so important, you will apply to specific internships and you can list up to 3 of them. So I really encourage you to look at all those internships. Maybe your question is, well, what are the chances that I get an internship? And specifically with this program, it really depends. I know that's not a satisfying answer, but basically what this means is because there are individual internships, it really depends on how many applications one specific internship will receive. And so this is something where you can also strategically plan. You do want to apply for the top 3 and not just one, just to maximize your chances. You can also, what I would do, look at really some of the ones that don't sound so appealing at first, because those are usually the ones that may not have as many applicants, but I can assure you that all of those internships will be great for you for an international research experience. So really, when you look at the database, keep an open mind, and maybe also consider internships that are not necessarily the most amazing sounding right away, but also consider the ones that are a little bit more kind of niche topics. I assume a lot of you are undergraduates, and so that's the focus that I just had. But we do also offer the DAAD RISE professional internship, and that is again, summer internship. It's the same also for STEM students, but this one is for graduate students working at German companies. And if you are an undergraduate and you know you want to pursue a graduate degree, if you are an intern in the RISE Germany program, you are eligible to also apply to the RISE Professional. So if this is something that you also want to consider, you would be able to apply to that one as well. So just keep that in mind. Again, German is not necessarily a requirement, but some internships may require a little bit of German. And again, also with that, the deadline is December 15th and the database opens November 1st. So here it's very similar. You receive a little bit more funding, but otherwise it's very much the same, just so that you are on the graduate level. Again, also here, very similar requirements. You have to be enrolled as a student in a master's or PhD program. If you are an undergraduate and you will receive the DAAD RISE internship when you participate and you end up studying a few years still, and you have a summer potentially, if you are RISE alumnus and a RISE alumna, you are able to apply for the RISE professional even as an undergraduate. You just need to be enrolled in the program, in an academic program in the fall afterwards. So very briefly, because this is the STEM internship focused webinar, this is the program that's a really structured internship program with a specific host that you can choose. So I wanted to talk to you just briefly to you about the research grant, which is an opportunity that will allow you to conduct any kind of research with anyone within Germany at a public institution. That can be a German university or non-university institution, or a research institution, as long as it's publicly funded. And so this is for you, maybe if you are a bachelor student to graduate and you're interested in master's, PhD, but want to do research already, or you're looking at a graduate degree program, you can apply for the short-term and the long-term research grant, and that would really enable you to conduct your own research at the research lab that's relevant to you, with the supervisor that you've chosen. So maybe this is nothing that you would want to do now, but you can do that later, because all of R&D funding is available to individuals in all of their academic stages. And if you, there are professors, for example, who've received funding as an undergraduate, as a graduate student, and then later on as a professor. So these are really opportunities that are available throughout your academic career if you choose to pursue one. So as I said, there are a number of research institutions. So if you are already if you know exactly what you want to do in terms of research, There are a number of facilities, and I'm happy to also talk to you more about where to identify the right institution, maybe the right host, if you're interested in that, but may need a little bit more input. So we can do that on the one-on-one advising. Tips for success. Well, you're in the session, so that's a good first step to get this kind of information. And then all of our websites have detailed information on the funding, the terms of award, but also on how to apply. We've got FAQ pages. And oftentimes when I answer emails these days, I copy and paste the information that's on our website. So if you are interested in funding, please read the website. But if you then have questions, always you can reach out to us, either to me or my colleagues in New York. And then in terms of specifically the application, make it as specific as possible. So for the RISE program, for example, why have you chosen a certain internship? And then not just that, but the mentor will choose you too. So you may want to say why you think you're a good fit for this. So you want to explain why you could be a great intern for this specific internship. And then submit a quality letter of recommendation. And that means that you contact the professors or professor ahead of time, ideally meet with the professor. And so this is something, of course, if you're a STEM student, oftentimes as an undergraduate, you may not even interact with professors and more with teaching assistants. However, for recommendation letters, it should be a professor. So if you have limited interaction with a professor, still make an appointment, show your study proposal or your research proposal, your letter, and talk to the professor about your goals, and ask your professor if he or she or them can write the recommendation letter. And then this seems very simple, and maybe it doesn't seem as important, but there are oftentimes applications that can't be considered because they're not on time, they're not complete. And here, the most crucial information is all of our deadlines are German times. And with us here on the West Coast, oftentimes that means that if the deadline is, say, December 15th at midnight, that would mean at 2:59 p.m. here, you need to submit your application at the very latest. So here are the resources that are available to you. Again, you don't necessarily need to write them down. We can share them later also in the chat. And we have our social media, we have our newsletter. You can follow us. We always post the upcoming deadlines. And then finally, if you can find information on our website, if you do have follow-up questions about an application, feel free to get in touch with us. And that's another tip for the application: start early, because if you do have questions, the likelihood that we're able to respond quickly and really take our time is much higher if you get in touch with us sooner, because the closer we get to the application deadline, we're also busier, and then we may not be able to reply to you within the same day sometimes, and we may not be able to really talk you through everything. So start early, read the websites, and I'm sure, I'm not that familiar, but I'm sure that UC Merced has a writing center, and also I'm sure the Study Abroad office is also able to help you answer some questions and assist you with your application. And maybe you can, Craig and Cece, maybe you have additional information on that, because usually the students who are successful, they utilize the resources that are on campus with their professors, with their advisors, career centers, Study Abroad office, and so on and so forth. That's the information that I've prepared, and now I'm happy to answer more questions right now, but also if you have questions later, just feel free to reach out to me either via phone or email.
Hani, there are a number of questions in the chat. I don't know if you have a chance to see them with
Not
your
yet.
screen set up, but I can read them for you. So a few questions that I haven't already addressed. Are there internships available in the sciences for non-students who have graduated from the University of California?
Not at this point. We don't, and for those students, the research grant would be available, but they would have to find their own internship opportunity. Through DAAD, there is no opportunity available, but if you've graduated and you're between 18 and 24, the CBYX program, for example, is another great opportunity. But that is a program that's a year long, but it would also include language learning for 8 weeks, a semester at a university, and then an internship program. So this may be another route for you to look at for anyone who's under 24 and is looking for additional opportunities as a postgraduate.
Okay. That seems to answer another question that was posed shortly after that. Another question that's asked, can community college students apply if they're currently applying to transfer to the University of California?
Yeah, so that is something that you would send me an email specifically with your situation, and I will forward that to my colleagues. But I believe that you are eligible, but I want to make sure that I give you the right information, and sometimes it's case by case. And so for that, send me an email, ideally with your CV and with your situation, and then I will forward that to my colleagues who'll be able to answer that for you.
Okay. Another participant asks, can the full-time status be waived for students with disabilities?
Oh, there are, yeah, there are opportunities for that one too. Send me an email because those are individual cases. In that case, would that be considered, even though it's not full-time, would UC Merced consider that as full-time?
You know, that's a little bit beyond my expertise, but I do know that exceptions are regularly made for students in order to be more successful, you know,
Yeah.
on a case-by-case individual
Yeah.
situation.
And so that's similar here too. So if that's your situation, I encourage you to get in touch with me directly with more details about your case, and then I will forward that also to my colleagues who will then let you know if you're for what specifically you'd be eligible here.
Okay. Another question, could the letter of recommendation be completed by a past team leader? I'm not sure the context there, from a past internship, or is it better to have a professor?
Yeah, the question is, what is a team leader? So it should be university academically focused. It doesn't have to be a current one. It just needs to be someone who can speak on your behalf. And that's why I also said, even though if you've mostly had teaching assistants in your class, you would still want to make an appointment with a professor, talk about your goals, and that professor could still see your transcript or your classes, your performance, could consult with the teaching assistant. And if you feel like a teaching assistant would really better be able to speak on your behalf, then have a professor co-sign it. That's another option you can do. I don't know if that answers the question. Again, I'm not quite sure what a team leader you refer to, but it should be an academic reference.
Excellent. Another question, when would applicants find out if they got the internship?
Yeah, so again, because of the pandemic, there may be, it may vary a little bit, but for the RISE internship, it's anywhere between mid-March to mid-April. And that always depends on how many applicants a certain internship has. But that's kind of the time frame you're looking at.
Okay. And then as a follow-up to the first question I posed in the Q&A about students who have graduated, one person writes, what if they are no longer under 24, but they've already graduated and are still interested in an internship opportunity?
So the 24, the 18 to 24 specific to CBYX. So that's really very specific to that program. For DAD, age doesn't matter. What matters is if you are still enrolled. For VISE, you have to be enrolled. For the research grant, you have to have graduated no longer than 6 years by the time you apply. So if you graduated, but you're interested in research opportunities and you find your own research project and host, you're eligible to apply to that one up to 6 years after graduation.
Okay. And then the last question, one participant writes, is this only available for juniors and up?
Yeah, so the minimum requirement for our programs is you have to be a junior by the time you apply. So you can't apply in your first year as a freshman.
So just to clarify, this wouldn't be available to a student who is currently a sophomore and would be a junior in the coming fall. This is only available for students who are currently juniors or above?
No, you have to be in your second year to apply.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. That is all the questions that I see in the chat.
Okay.
So I want to thank everybody who stuck it out even through the end of the question and answer. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your interest in internships, especially in science and engineering in Germany. Thank you for spending a little bit of your afternoon with us, and thank you, Hani, for joining us and for sharing a little bit of these opportunities, not just with UC Merced students, but with students from across the UC system. I really appreciate you spending the time today and joining us.
Thanks for having me.